Hello and welcome to Firestorm Games, and you're joining us as we take a look at the reincarnation of the classic sports-based miniatures game, which is of course Blood Bowl, which if you don't know what it is, it's the game of fantasy football. As you can see on the tagline, it's a brutal reimagining of American football, but with orcs and fantasy races set in the Warhammer fantasy old world. And in this box, this is the starter set, so you get everything you need to play Blood Bowl, including two teams of humans and orcs, which you can see on the front of the box here. So flipping this box over, we can see all of the contents that we get in the set just listed here, and then on the side we get the two teams I've already mentioned, we get game tokens and balls, we get the double-sided Blood Bowl pitch, you can see the grass version here and the orc kind of mud pitch there. We also get two team dugouts, two official sets of dice, plastic pass, scatter and throw-in templates. We also get a deck of special play cards, reference cards, and also the rulebook, and finally two game reference sheets as well. So let's open this set up and take a look at the contents inside. So let's kick things off by looking at the rules first of all. Now this rulebook gives you everything you need to know to start playing Blood Bowl. It explains the different items, the templates, the pitch, which players do which in the game, and it kind of explains the game really nicely. Basically, all these sections are diagrammed out, and it starts off with a boot camp, and this boot camp just teaches you the basics of movement, passing, blocking, blitzing, all those techniques and actions you'll be using throughout your games of Blood Bowl. Now it also splits the actual rules sections up into two sets of rules. So it starts off with basic rules, which is designed to kind of not overwhelm you too much when you start playing the game. You learn a few of the basic ways the game plays first of all, and then once you're comfortable after playing a few games, then you can move on through the actual rulebook, and then you can start going through to the extra rules section, which is more for advanced players. So it's more for people who want to kind of up the level of their games that they're playing. So everything's nicely diagrammed, as you should be able to see it as we've been flicking through. Got some nice artwork of the orc and marauder teams scattered throughout as well. Now towards the end of here, if I just skip forward a little bit, you can see we have some actual assembly guides and also some painting guides as well. So you can see exactly how you need to put your push fit miniatures together, and also some paint splatter like painting guides for both the orc and also the human teams. So that's the rulebook. We also have this reference sheet, which both players get one of each, and this kind of briefly explains all the rules. So you don't have to keep on flicking through the rulebook and passing it between to find rules. It just acts as a reference point. You can look at it quickly, see what the sequence of players, how to throw balls, how to win the match, things like that, and you also get some of the charts are on here as well. So that's the rulebooks looked at, and let's look at some of the dice. Here we have the dice that we find in Blood Bowl, and you can see we get two different colours. We get green for the orc player and also blue for the human player. So it's nice that these have been customised for each player. Each player gets their own set of dice that they can use throughout the game. The first set of dice that we get here are these six-sided dice, and these are block dice. Now instead of numbers, you have these different symbols. These symbols mean different things, so when you're actually blocking opponents, you roll these dice and then it gives you different results. We also have some standard D6s, and these are nicely cast with the Blood Bowl logo on the 6 space there. And finally, we also have some non-D6 dice. It's nice to see Games Workshop moving away from their D6 only model of dice. You saw it in the Burning of Prospero set, where we had a few non-D6 dice, and it's the same here. We actually get a D8 dice and also I believe this one is a D16. Yeah, you can see it there. So some nice interesting dice that we can use in our games of Blood Bowl. So let's move on to looking at the cards. In Blood Bowl, you get two main types of cards. You get special plays and also player cards. And I've split these down into two further sections. So we've got the star player cards and also the cards for both the orc and also the human teams there. And we also have random events for special play and also the miscellaneous mayhem cards as well. Now the special play cards can be used by both players, and you can draw from different decks depending on how many cards you're actually able to use in that game, and they allow you to essentially perform special moves in the game, and these kind of represent the fact that a lot of Blood Bowl teams do cheat in the games and they don't actually follow the rules all the time. So for example, the miscellaneous mayhem cards have different effects. So your team has trapped the pitch with a disguised mine and the opposing team has just set it off. So some quite interesting things like that. And we've also got ball clone. The random influence of each possesses a ball, causing no end of confusion and insanity. So they do have lots of different interesting effects that you can use to gain some advantages in your games. Now the player cards are split into two sections, as I've already said. The star player cards are some special plays that you can purchase for your teams when you're building your own teams here, and they have improved stats, and you can use them to replace your regular team members. So we've got Morgan Thorg, which are Ogre, we've got Varag Ghoulchew as an Orc, and we have 2 human players, Mighty Zug and Griff Oberwald as well. Now for the generic team cards, we have them for both the humans and also the orcs, and these represent what each of the different players can do. We have their movement allowance on the stat line here, their strength, agility and armor value as well, and also what skills they've got on the bottom of the card there as well. So very useful to have at hand. You can quickly see exactly which of your team members' stat lines you need to look at and what skills they have, just at a quick glance. So that's the cards looked at. Let's move on to the pitch and the dugouts. So next up we have the dugouts, and this is the human dugout, and each of these sections are allow you to, as a player, to keep track of what your team's doing, what the score is, what turn it is, and also use this section just here to keep a track of which players have been killed, which players have been knocked out, and which players are in your reserves roles. And you can see these handy little numbers here. So these basically, if you roll on an injury table, you get 2 to 7, then you just simply knock them out for a bit and they just get back up on the next turn. If, however, you roll an 8 to 9, then they will be knocked out and be in this section here, and you have to roll to get them back into your reserves bench. Or they might actually just be dead, which means you can't use them for the rest of the game. Now, each of these different sections have different meanings. So you've got the top here, obviously the score tracker. You've also got the first half turn tracker and the second half turn tracker, and then also the number of re-rolls that you can have in the game as well. And these are quite thick card, so quite sturdy, quite nice. And if I flip these over, you can see that we've actually got an orc dugout on the other side, so very much different in styles. You can see a very uniform, very crisp stone sections compared to these roughly hewn stones and what is pretty much just a muddy trench for the dugout. So that's the dugout. Let's move on to the pitch itself. So here we have the Blood Bowl pitch, and this is made from the same cardstock as the dugouts are, so quite thick and sturdy, and also the edges have got this nice taped seam on there as well. Now this pitch is quite big, as you can see by the struggle I've had to actually get it in shot, but it's roughly about 90 centimeters long by about 50 centimeters wide. So quite a sizable pitch, and you can see each of these sections here have these little squares, and these are used for moving around, so you can move so many squares one way and throw the ball so many squares. So it's a very useful indicator as to exactly what you want. Now you also have these line markings as well to indicate the different zones of the game, and then right at the end, if I just drag this along, you can see we have the touchdown areas which are defined by this checkerboard pattern. Now if I just flip this over, you can see we actually have a different orc style pitch on the other side. So rather than the human side being all grassy, this is very muddy, has rocks and things like that. So very orc in its stylings. So that's the actual pitch looked at, as well as the cards, the dice, and also the rulebook. Let's move on to taking a look at some of the miniatures in this set. So this brings us to the plastic miniatures in this set, but first we're going to be looking at the plastic templates that we get in here. So first of all, we get the ball scatter token, and this is placed on the pitch, and you roll a d8 and it indicates which direction the ball is scattered in. We also have the throw-in marker here, so this is when the ball leaves play and it gets thrown in by the crowd, and you just roll a d6 to determine which direction it's going, and what this nice American football outline there as well. Now we also have the range ruler as well, and this is in 2 parts, and you basically snap these 2 together and makes this long range ruler, and each of these sections has a different meaning. So the first section here is the quick pass, then we have short pass, long pass, and then the final long bomb. Each pass raising in difficulty as you get further along. So these come in this nice grey plastic, this nice silvery grey plastic, so you don't really need to paint these at all. You can use these as they are straight out the box, just clip them off the sprue, and then you can clip these together as and when you need them. So let's move on to the human team. So this brings us to the part of the video that you've probably all been looking forward to, and this is of course the miniatures that we get in Blood Bowl. I'm going to start off with the human team, and you can see that it's been cast in this bright blue plastic, which is great because even if you don't want to paint your miniatures, you can see straight away when you've got the green orcs and the blue humans on the table exactly which team is which. Now this sprue is actually in 2 parts, so you get another sprue which is identical to this one, which means you get 12 human players altogether, and each one contains the following. So you get, we've got 1 lineman there, we've got a thrower, we've got another lineman, we've got a blitzer here, another lineman, and then finally a catcher. So that's 3 linemen, a thrower, a catcher, and also a blitzer as well. Now in addition to that, we also get these tokens. We've got this fist token here and also a coin token, and then we also get a few balls. So we've got this generic ball just at the bottom here, and then we also have these balls with the pins. And this is because when you actually have possession of the ball, you slot this pin into this hole that we've got on the slotter bases for these miniatures, and you can easily identify which miniature is currently carrying the ball. Now, like I said, these other sprue is identical, so everything you see on here, you get 2 of in the game. So let's get some of these miniatures assembled. And here we have some of the assembled human team. Now, these miniatures were push fit, and no glue was actually used in building these. They were simply clipped off the sprue and slotted together, and they go together exceptionally easy. And even though they have only been slotted together, the actual joins are still quite sturdy, and you could be happy playing these without having to glue them together. Now, even with the limitation of making these miniatures slot fit, their detailing still is really nice. Some of the poses are slightly two-dimensional in their appearance, however the detailing really is fantastic, and I really like the aesthetics of the human team. It's very much similar to the American football of today, albeit with leather and metal armour instead of the more up-to-date modern materials. So that's the human team looked at. Let's move on to the orcs. So this brings us to the orc team, which you can see have been cast in green plastic, which again makes them very easily identifiable on the pitch. Now we have a range of different players on this. We have the black orc blocker, we have the thrower, we also have the blitzer, and then we have 3 linemen there. So this team, instead of having a catcher, will instead have the black orc blocker. So each team does have their own specialities and also special players as well. Now again, we also get the tokens for keeping track of your scores and dice rerolls. We've got these fists here and also the coins as well. Again, these miniatures are push fit and also come with a couple of balls as well. You can see we've got this slightly different ball there. The human ball is much more refined than the orc ball, is probably the nicest way to say it. It's got very rough stitching and very kind of rough leather there as well. So let's get some of these orcs assembled and take a look at the finished pieces. And here we have some assembled examples of the orc team. Now these were also slot fit, but were a little bit more tricky to fit together due to their more dynamic posing compared to the human team. However, this does give us the option to have some really interesting poses, such as the blitzer and also the blocker. Now aesthetically, the orcs are considerably different from their human players. They are much more bulky, their armour is a lot more ragtag and also jagged and features a lot more spikes, very much true to their orky nature. So with both the human and orc teams looked at, let's get an overall summary for Blood Bowl. So that concludes our look at Blood Bowl, and it really is an excellent game. It really lives up to its standards, and it's great to see a new lease of life being given to this classic Games Workshop game. We've got brand new miniatures, the rules have been reformatted, everything's brand new, and it's all really nice and fresh now. I'm really looking forward to see the direction this game's going to take in the future. Now, if you enjoyed this unboxing and would like to pick up one of your own Blood Bowl sets, they are available for pre-order on the Firestorm Games website, which you can find a link to in the description below, for £55 and 25p, which is a great saving over the RRP of £65. Now, also, if you're in the Cardiff or Newport area and want to come down and see this game in action, you should check out the description below and find out where our stores are, and you can come in, have a look at this game in action, and we've got a really cool gaming table that you can play Blood Bowl on too. So if you enjoyed this unboxing and would like to see more Blood Bowl content in the future, please do let us know in the comments below, and also subscribe to be kept up to date with all of our future videos. And finally, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again on Firestorm Games.